Majors. I'm Brian Costello.
I'm Jim DeSanto.
I'm Furiosa.
What a lovely day.
Yes.
Oh, what a lovely day.
And we are joined this week by...
Witness me. I am Keenan.
Yay!
I like that.
Immortan Keenan.
Yes, I like it. I love
Well
that. Keenan, we have a challenge for you. You have to say exactly as many lines as Tom Hardy said in.
I'm not sure that was his voice, this movie, and I want to talk about that. But
How many times? All right, I'm introducing a drinking game. We can't actually do drinking games on Facebook, but just for pretend, whatever beverage you have. Every time one of us grunts like Tom Hardy, take a drink. Good. Every time Scout barks, take a drink.
That's unacceptable.
Well,
Let's just move on from this game.
All right. So today we are looking at a world that posits something that is slightly worse than 2020. As we talk, Tom Hardy, Charlize Theron in George Miller's modern classic, Mad Max Fury Road. But first, as always, we ask the most pressing questions. What are we drinking this episode? What does everybody have?
I'm having an old fashioned.
Love it.
I got my drink from my universal donor.
Oh my God.
She has a
You are
blood bag.
drinking. She's drinking out of a blood bag. Again, doing a visual gag for a podcast.
Yeah.
We'll put a picture on.
We'll put a picture on social media. I love it. And her
No, you
face
don't
is
really need to
also
open it. Then you
her
can keep
face
it.
is also painted black.
Yes.
Keenan, what are you drinking? 'Cause I imagine that blood bag is going to explode all over the room.
I am having a cranberry hard cider from Windridge Cidery, which is where I will be getting married. Well, having my wedding reception.
Yes.
I already got married in July, but my wedding reception next October.
And we loved your wedding reception. Congratulations
They
again,
will,
of course.
Our Giant has those. I saw them today.
And
Really?
Yeah.
it is still
It's really good cider.
Keenan, it's still going to be a movie attire
absolutely.
themed ceremony.
Not movie
right?
attire. I mean, if you want
Like,
to wear movie
no,
attire,
from a movie.
you can.
No,
But,
from-
yeah, it is still movie themed.
Oh, okay. Are we going to see a renewing of vows so we can experience
Yes.
the whole thing? Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. I love it.
We're still having the ceremony. So
That's not a universal donor, Katie.
Oh, that is amazing.
yeah, that's
I actually don't need a universal donor because I am A positive.
all right.
And this
is that
A
universal
positive.
recipient?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
This is
Universal
the visual of
recipient.
this.
Isn't
Really?
there one that's like a universal recipient can take any type?
Yeah, I don't think that's
No,
me.
I think it's a donor.
No.
Yes, I think
No,
there's a
I think-
donor, right?
Keenan might be right.
I don't know.
but
Hold on. I'll fact
It's
check
not mine.
this.
Yeah.
I don't want to
fact
talk
check
about
that.
blood.
Fact check blood. I hate blood.
One of our commenters would like to continue talking about Space Force.
Yeah, Jeff.
Jeff, we've moved on.
Okay. We could talk Space
Maybe in the
Force at
future.
some point. Yeah.
Oh, wait,
find it
actually,
Space
this is true. Keenan, I know it's a visual gag,
Yes.
Brian, but we have to acknowledge that our guest is
It's in
in
the
outer
bedroom
space.
of a 5-year-old.
Yes. So
Keenan is recording. Keenan, as we've been talking, we've been documenting Keenan's rise to adulthood
Yes.
over the past year. And he purchased a beautiful home, which has a bedroom that was designed for a 5-year-old. Keenan, explain
probably
to Pop.
it's a small child. So basically, when we looked at this house, we went to this room. It was just like, holy. And for those of you watching on Facebook Live, let me just do a quick pan of the.
And then describe for our listeners.
So it has a ceiling
Yep.
with stars on it. You can't see the.
It really is actually
will say,
impressive.
Very impressive.
What's not
Very
impressive
impressive.
is
This
that they
is
think space is
hand-painted.
fucking navy blue.
Oh, Jim.
Oh,
There
well,
are
but
planets.
then there is a very phallic.
yeah, that thing.
Rockets are phallic. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
then-
unavoidable.
But
I got the UFO right behind me.
that literally could have been some kind of like, phallic symbol, and then they went to
That
sell
they
the house and like,
converted
we
it.
just need to paint this a
Totally.
rocket.
Oh,
Get
yeah,
away
you
with it.
think that could have been like
I
a
keep on saying
creepy
all you have
sex
to
room,
do
Jim?
is you got to just sand the sides
like
right
that.
here so
Okay.
that this is round.
There's
Yeah.
something wrong with you.
So
This is clearly a small child's
That
bedroom.
I
could have
should not
been
reach up
now
like this. I
Chamber
should
of
not do this
Secrets.
at all.
Keenan
Yeah.
is going to change that
Don't do
into a strange sex room, no matter what
Yes.
happens.
So
Guys.
basically, this room was like that from 2 previous owners, and the owners that we bought it from, when they bought the house,
had no children?
They saw it. They had no children, but they were
Okay,
like,
so it was a
as
sex
soon as
room.
they looked at the room, they were like,
didn't
they
change it.
spent whoever painted this spent a long time making it. So they left it. And when we moved in, I said the same thing to Mandy, and she was kind of like, well, we can get rid of it. I was like, no, save it for when we
amazing.
have kids. And until then, it will be my comic book room.
It's
And
amazing.
I think actually you should add like the Razor Crest and Serenity. You should update it with some
there's
cool...
definitely Star Wars stuff going on this. I'm changing. I'm going to probably change this UFO into the Millennium Falcon.
Yes.
And
Okay.
probably this phallic
I'm down
rocket
with
ship. I'm going to try and make it into an X-wing
is
somehow.
everything just paint, or I mean, obviously the rocket is 3-dimensional.
Right. The rocket.
Yeah.
The rocket is a plank of wood.
Yeah.
But everything else is actually hand painted.
Amazing. It gives me hope because I similarly spent a lot of time on our firstborn's room.
Yeah.
Painted it. It was like we had a pond, a pool, frogs, all kinds
Ponds
of
good
things.
for you.
Ponds are good
Yeah.
for you. Now the people that live there have no kids, and I just hope that their guest bedroom still looks like the great outdoors.
Oh,
Yeah.
they painted it. They painted
Shit,
it some
Brian.
ugly color
Come
immediately.
on.
The thing I can't show you though is as you go into this closet area, like they have
Sex
lights
swing?
in it, and there's
Oh.
like this area for like a kid to play, and like it is a sex area. Yeah. Everything in the house can be a sex area though.
I'm still though.
Desecrated.
If you're going to make a space room, like what do you think of space? When you think of space, what do you think of?
Space.
Black.
There's two
Going to
things.
space.
You
I'm going to
can't
space.
paint
I'm going
a
to
small
space.
child's room black.
Blackness
You cannot
and
paint
stars.
a small child's room black.
You can if you
no,
do.
this looks better. Dark blue. Dark blue is the way to go.
Yeah.
They didn't.
This-
they went half-assed.
They,
it.
they did
This
not. They made the right
bedroom is
choice.
already more interesting than
All right,
the Adventures of Buckaroo
Let's
Banzai.
get into the
Oh,
fact check.
dimension.
Let's get into the fact
All
check.
right, here we go. I'm cutting everything from the fact check
Oh, wait.
except for what Katie wanted.
No,
So
no,
Katie,
no,
you
no.
can do what you want to do.
I just wanted to. I have no idea what kind of a human Steve Jobs was, but I do need to acknowledge that before he died, his wife and he set up the Emerson Collective, which is a nonprofit organization, and they have provided millions. I don't know about billions. I know the Gates Foundation is billions.
45 billion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So certainly it's still not rivaling the Gates Foundation, but they have funded public education across the country. They actually were funders of the DACA program and subsequent political campaigns that we are also in support of. And so they've done some good things. They've done some good things with the money that they earned, maybe in nefarious ways.
Yeah.
Yes.
just
Jim, what
needed
was
to
your
acknowledge
favorite
that.
quote? You can
my-
do your quote. What
my
was your
favorite
quote from
quote-
Social Network?
Is when Eduardo goes to fake punch Sean Parker, and he like freaks, and Sean Parker like freaks out, and he just says, "I like standing next to you, Sean. It makes me look so tough."
I thought
is
you
a great
quoted
line.
that last week.
I didn't.
Oh, all right. I remembered you. In my mind, you did. In my mind, it happened.
Okay, time for the rundown. Here we go.
Okay. Do we have music?
Oh, we have music.
What is the name of that crazy rock man guy who would always perform without a shirt on? He would jump around the stage a lot. Henry
David Lee
Rollins?
Rollins?
Henry Rollins.
Henry Rollins?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is Henry Rollins with the rundown.
Okay.
That feels like the same vibe as this movie.
Yeah, I guess.
Turns out climate change is real. One bad apple really can ruin the bunch, and people do actually need water and plants to live. Welcome to Mad Max Fury Road, where everything feels like a blind albino guitar player hopped up on cocaine, adrenaline, bungee cords, and gasoline. I wrote Vaseline, which also feels appropriate.
Well, I think that would probably work as well, actually.
Watch while
Otherwise
the
you chafe.
apocalyptic Bane and the one-armed Linda Carter G.I. Jane try to overthrow Trump and his minions and restore sanity and vegetables to the earth.
Love it.
Yeah.
That was a good one. We got sidetracked. I never even said what beer I'm
Oh, yeah,
drinking.
go ahead.
And I
Yeah,
picked
yeah.
this
What you
specially.
got?
I'm
What you
drinking
got?
Clown Shoes Double Dry Hopped Zen Garden.
I don't like clowns.
So look at that. It's got the little Grim Reaper in a garden. So much of this movie about a garden. So this is a film
True.
that received 10 Oscar nominations.
Yeah.
Shocking.
And it's something that I think is almost unparalleled for a movie of this type
Yeah.
to receive that kind of notoriety. And it kind of took, I think, Hollywood by storm and the country in some respects by storm. I don't remember a lot about this. You know, I heard about pre-production and then it just kind of came out, and it was something I think that shocked people, especially since Mad Max is very much in the cult film genre.
Absolutely.
But this is like a piece of art in some ways. How surprising was this movie for you, Katie? Because you had not seen it prior to this. Was it what you thought it was going to be?
I don't know if I was. I don't know if I had anticipated anything. I don't know if I had any expectations of it. I felt like it was an action film that was trying to have a message that sometimes worked and sometimes fell flat. I felt like there were a lot of gaps in this movie. Overall, it's an experience. I mean, I've never done cocaine, but I felt like this is probably what it feels like. Felt like hard lining cocaine, like right into my chest cavity. That's the whole time. There was some really awkward dialogue in it that I got like hung up on, like grunting and then like redemption. Redemption. But there was a vision. It clearly had a vision to it. That's what I will say about this film.
All right, Jim.
Yeah, this is the second time I watched it. Neither time in the theater, obviously. I like certain parts of this movie. I love the way it looks. I think it looks incredible. I think Charlize and the female actors are pretty good. I think Nux, who is that? What's his name?
Nicholas Hoult.
Nicholas Hoult.
Chaplips.
About a boy.
Chaplips. Yeah, Chaplips. He's great. Tom Hardy, I think, is awful.
Agreed.
After rewatching this, I think Tom Hardy is awful. I don't know whether his voice was ADR'd the whole time, but it felt like he had a filter on his voice that no one else in the film had, and it made every time he talked feel like an overdub to me in a really bad way. I don't know whether it was just the way he was putting on his voice or what, and that might be why they didn't have him say anything. But I agree with Katie. I think if you're trying to tell a story to make this a little more meaningful and have a theme that is a little more evolved than cars blowing up and people blowing up, then fucking do it. And don't like half-ass the characters. And I think for Mad Max specifically to have his name in the title, I know everyone says this is a Furiosa movie. Also, you didn't tell us her fucking story either.
We don't get her story.
So you don't know why she does what she does.
No.
What is the tipping point after 7,000 days that makes her finally decide to turn the tables? So I love all the practical effects and all the crazy shit they did in this movie because I think that was really fun. I still love this movie way more than something like John Wick, which I think is uninventive and fucking derivative and awful.
But I think you have to compare it. So I can't compare it to the other Mad Max films, but speaking tonight,
It's better than all of them.
Oh, interesting. Oh, the person I spoke to
The
tonight,
Road Warrior, though?
said
Maybe
Road
not the Road
Warrior
Warrior.
and Thunder.
Yeah, Road
No,
Warrior
it is way better than Thunderdome.
Okay.
Thunderdome is creepy,
is
kinda like
is like an
Thunderdome's
80s
amazing.
camp. It's a campy mess of a movie.
Okay.
It's
just Mel Gibson's hair alone
it's
in
like,
that movie is.
It's like not as. It's basically on the level of something like Big Trouble in Little China, but not funny.
Okay.
So it's not good.
Keenan, tell us your
Yes,
thoughts.
Keenan.
So I absolutely love this movie. I do agree that Tom Hardy is, I don't know if he's quite right for the role. I think he did a decent job, but it's like you look into like the things that were happening back like behind the scenes, which was like he was having huge issues with the director. Like they were at each other's like throats the entire time because Tom Hardy refused to trust the director knew what he was doing. And this is something that, George Miller created this in the 80s. Like this is the fourth movie in a series. Now, of course, it has been a long time since the last one came out, but it's like it's a series he created. You got to trust the guy. You got to go on the journey with him.
Wait a second. I'll disagree with you there. This has nothing to do with those other movies. Nothing. It's not even the same guy.
You really don't know.
It's not even the same guy.
But my point is that Tom Hardy had no faith in George Miller. So that's part of the reason why his performance is not, because like the whole time he's miserable. He's practically phoning it in. On top of it, I don't know. Like I am really hot and cold with Tom Hardy. I used to be like, oh, he's great. I loved him as Bane. I loved him in Rock and Rolla. I like him.
He really is Bane.
Yeah.
He's kind of still Bane in this movie.
Yeah.
He's great. His show Taboo is incredible, and he's excellent in it.
That is a great.
But like Venom was atrocious.
Yeah,
it does feel so. I think I missed the part that these are all George Miller films. I probably missed that. So here, two things. Number one, it makes sense because I feel like there's a whole lot of story in George Miller's head that didn't come through, and this is a storytelling flaw where oftentimes there are parts of the story that are still in the creator's brain that they don't realize have not come through in the final product, right? And so for somebody on that first watch, like I had so many questions that I honestly kept thinking I must have missed something. And then I would check with Jim, like, so do we know? So like what happened to like, so that when she says like, remember me, that there's an implication that there's a relationship there between her and so because clearly she's not a mom, she's not one of the moms, she's not a milker, she's not providing the milk, she's a general, so she's over all of his like male descendants. There are no other women in that rank. There are no war girls, right? It's just her. And we don't get a bit of that story.
You will in the prequel.
But that's dumb. This is where you need it.
I see. I don't know. There's something about the way that it is told. Like it is basically this whole movie from start to finish. It really, I mean, you get a little bit in the beginning just to explain how Max got involved, which just shows him being chased down by these people. But the whole story is basically just that car chase. It's just them on the road.
But you see, part of this movie really hinges on the fact that she has a hope of getting them somewhere. You need to know. I think the biggest thing.
See, but I don't think that she did. I mean, they even get they have a line where they say that they had to convince her to take them. The women.
Right.
They had to convince the breeders to take them. This whole plot from start to finish was just her trying to get back to where she came from. She wanted to get raised high enough in Immortum Joe's ranks so that she'd be trusted with the warship by herself.
Wait a second. None of this happens in the movie. You are making this up.
Well, okay, that part.
Here's the conversation that did happen.
Is he making it up, or is there somewhere?
No, he asked her, "Have you done this before?"
That
conversation does happen.
She wants to get home, and like through her attitude, through the way that she answers questions, through the way she talks about everything, and her like Max is talking about like, where are we going? What's this Greenland? And she's kind of like, I had to tell him something. I forget what her line is, but it boils down to her basically saying like, it doesn't matter what they think. They think I'm taking them to the promised land. Really, I'm just going home. And that's why the moment she shows up there, she's like, remember me? I am daughter of so-and-so.
Yeah.
I am from that line. Because she just wanted to get home. That's it. That's right, all it is.
No, but she also, I don't agree with that because it seems like she also very much wants to save them. And
Yeah.
you see that multiple times.
Along the way, she started just like Max.
So your take is that she waited. This is the earliest possible moment she could have tried this.
Probably.
But again,
that is actually not explained.
There's
so
a conversation.
My takeaway from that is yes, this is the moment. That's why she chose this moment. She's been planning to go this way, and she was able to get the breeders, and this is why she's going on this one trip. But from the beginning, she wanted to get home. Like, that is her goal. That is in the movie. Like, she wanted to go home, and along the way, yes, she started to have feelings for these girls and felt sorry for them. And same with Max. Like, in the beginning, Max just wants to steal the shit or the truck and go home. He just wants to leave. And then finally, like, after helping him after the first battle, once they're in the canyon, finally he's like, all right, I'll help you, like, and he starts to like feel sorry for them. And then he starts to feel for the girls, and he ends up fighting with them.
Okay. I struggle with a movie that does not tell stories. So Star Wars is an example of a story that starts in the middle.
Right.
And there are certainly questions that you have as you're watching. What's the first one?
A New Hope.
Sure. No, the first one that was ever made.
A New Hope.
Oh, that was really it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
That's really the name of it?
I'm wondering why you're laughing in his face.
That's
You're
it.
like, oh,
So
right.
there's questions, right?
But that is the first moment that Luke Skywalker has been in any of those films. So
Yeah.
it's an introductory to the world through him.
Yes, and you get his story.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
In this film, you don't get anyone's story. You get
Right.
moments and then a whole lot of truck action shots.
Yeah.
Like, how else can we have people fly off of trucks?
Right. But we
at
should say all of that is above and beyond anything I think I've seen in a movie.
Very cool action. I'm just
absolutely.
saying, if you're going to spend that much time on the action, you have to have some investment in, and there's enough time for it. There's these weird conversations that they have where it's like you could have just used that conversation.
Well, even like Furiosa, like drop, the which I think is used in like a ton of the promotional stuff where she's like dropping on her knees and screaming when she finds out that the green place is ruined. Like that's the moment that should be a bookend to like her wanting to like that should be the bookend to what we learned in the beginning of the movie about her, but we literally learn nothing about her in the beginning of the movie. And I don't think he does enough leading up to that point for us to understand her motivations to go, oh, now I feel why because there is nothing that says I want to go home. And that's the moment, like a switch flips and is like, I'm going to do this thing.
Because I have to be honest,
you don't find out till well after that moment that she's done the thing.
I thought it was more against Joe. I thought it was more about I'm going against Joe and taking the things that he cares the most about and getting them away from him. Not as much about going back home.
Yeah, and then there's the moment where, like Katie said, when she finally kills Joe. And she's like, remember me. What the fuck does that even mean?
I guess we have to watch the next film, Jim, to have any answers.
No, but you're taking that as like, so when you brought that up to me, you were taking that as like, hey, do you remember me? I just killed you. And
No. I thought it was a reference to whatever their story has been.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, do you remember me?
Oh, okay.
Like that's what you took that as. Do you remember me?
Yes.
I was taking that as like wherever you're going, remember me that I did this to you.
Oh, see, I heard a different inflection.
I took it as well.
Yeah.
You see, to me, this whole like discussion of character and stuff like that is irrelevant for this movie because
it's not though because they try to do it.
That's it.
But not enough. But I don't
they
think.
Do.
A little, but not much. I don't think they gave it much care.
So here's the difference, because you said I'm going to love this more than Roadhouse. No,
I
Roadhouse
didn't say you would love this more
I
than
said-
Roadhouse.
You did. I'm sorry. Like, just because it's got our commenter Jeff is talking about how this film was billed as having such a strong female protagonist. Yeah, but it has to have the other stuff too, right?
You're not reading his whole comment though.
No,
he's like, no, there
I
are
know.
plenty of other movies.
No,
that
I'm sorry.
did-
Sorry, it wasn't.
including
Jeff
Alien.
wasn't. Yes, he wasn't in support of that theory, but just that, like, that's how this film was, buffeted, I guess. I just felt like, I don't know. It was a confused film. It felt like a confused film to me.
See, I don't think it
trying
was
to do too
confused
much.
at all.
Yeah,
I think it knew exactly what it was doing.
Yeah?
I don't think it fit. It does. I don't think it fits
Yeah.
into what a normal movie is, but I think it's one of those things
Right.
that is uniquely cinematic. It's not something that could be a book. It's not something that would work in TV. It's not something that would be a stage play. And in terms of the normal, like, I agree. I'm not going to agree. Like, the Tom Hardy character to me was almost like they needed him with that name on it to be able to get the movie made.
Yeah, it's
maybe?
weird. Like, he doesn't need to be in the film.
It's kind of like why does John Connor always shows up in a Terminator movie?
Exactly. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's like we don't need-
could this movie been made without the Mad Max character and maybe
Yes.
even been more interesting?
Yes.
Certainly.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think when I looked at it, it's like different. Like when we look at The Social Network, for example, the character development, the dialogue, it's like that is a vital piece to make that movie. Like this movie to me is just more an experience of it's relentless. It's the things that it's totally different in that way. And it kind of reminds me in some ways, like if you watch a Terrence Malick film or some of these other experimental films, it lacks in a lot of things, I think, at times that we would consider
It's more open to interpretation.
Yeah, a story. But when I think you look at the Oscar nominations, all the Oscar nominations make sense to me because it was production design, costuming, those type of it definitely creates a world that is intriguing. Like
Absolutely.
visually and those types of things. In terms of dialogue, no. I mean, I completely agree there. In terms of motivation, like if I really wanted to dig into it, I completely agree. But I also think maybe seeing it in the movie theater experience, kind of like we talked about with Air Force One, is maybe different as well versus sitting there or also maybe doing it for an episode where we're trying to actually analyze some of the things, as opposed to just sitting there and experiencing it.
Yeah, see, Brad, I disagree because I think like I can roll into a straight up action film. You know that I can get into just like brainless. Don't think too hard about this. Just roll with it.
Yeah,
I think I can do that. I'm in for the ride. There were many moments where it was like, stop. We're going to try to be meaningful here. Stop.
Yeah.
Let's have a little chat about philosophy.
I
Just don't
kinda
have
lean
that
you.
then.
It does kind of lead you to ask the questions that it doesn't answer.
Yes.
And I think that's part of the problem.
Yes. There's too much like use of symbol, of theology, I mean, if you want to talk about feminist ideation, yes, it's all there. And then it's just like, we're just gonna kind of like do it half. we just wanted to dress them in white because it looks cool. I don't know. I wanted them to either lean in or lean away, but not do it.
Brian,
half.
did you see this in the theaters?
I did not, which I feel kind of bummed about, but I've seen it twice now. What I did do is they did a black and white cut, which was kind of very interesting. In fact, the first time I saw it was the black and white version, which was really interesting because I felt like that played more to an aesthetic, and maybe that took away from some of the story stuff as well. It almost felt like an old Western on the chase as well, which the dialogue in those
it was originally supposed to be just all in black and white, but they were forced to put it in color.
Yeah, and then the second time I watched it, actually, when I watched it last night, I watched it in 4K, which was interesting because it was so different. I actually think I probably enjoyed it more technically in black and white. And I do have to say this. I think I probably enjoy this film more for the filmmaking aspect of it than maybe the film.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. Like I was impressed with like some of the way it was set up and the way it was shot and stuff like that. So, I mean, that could be it too. If I was looking at it purely from a story situation. So maybe it was the bias there that I was so intrigued in terms of how they pulled some of this stuff off. That maybe wins it bonus points, whereas the story itself is not like an Oscar-winning story.
But I think it could be, and I think that's where I feel let down. Is like it's such an interesting world, and absolutely, yes, the visuals are incredible, the action sequences are incredible. It has such a compelling feel to it, and so then when you hit the road bumps of like, now we're going to try to have a meaningful conversation between Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron, and it's going to feel like the first time you and your high school boyfriend tried to have sex. Like, that's how it feels. It's like, oh, and we just stopped and had an awkward moment. Now we're back in because the Bungie guys are coming.
Maybe part of my issue was I never cared much for those scenes. Like,
because they suck. Because those scenes
I thought you were going to
suck.
say your problem was that you never had a first experience making love to your high school boyfriend. That's what I thought you were going to say.
Nice work, Keenan. Keenan strikes back.
Yes, so I can't actually.
Episode 5, Keenan strikes back.
So I actually did see this movie in the theaters, IMAX 3D, which was amazing.
Oh, that had to be pretty awesome, I would imagine.
It was so immersive. Then, of course, when it came out, I bought it on Blu-ray 3D, watched it on Blu-ray 3D, and last night I watched just regular TV because I haven't set up my whole home theater system over here. But it is interesting. I think maybe my love for it does come to, I'm agreeing so much more with what Brian is saying. Like, a lot of it is the experience, and there's so much more forgiven about the way the story unfolds because it is, I just look at it as we are just getting like a peephole on this just chase. And what we don't get story wise is because there's no exposition. Like we get little bits of exposition. What exposition we're given, we have to interpret as the viewer. And I like it because I think it feels more natural. Like, really, if you are sitting in a car and in that situation, are you going to be like, well, growing up, I grew up in the Greenlands. And then, of course, I was taken by Immortum Joe at this certain age. And that's where I was forced into a servitude.
But
so
no, hold on. You're making an assumption that you're making an assumption that the storytelling has to be done through exposition.
Well, how else are you going to
you literally you film it because they filmed Tom Hardy standing on a mountain of sand talking about. They filmed exposition for him, which has no purpose in this film.
That's true. You don't need his story at all.
From the moment you get Mad Max Fury Road, as soon as the title shows up, from that moment on, it is just a straight from point A to point B. There is no flashback. There is no other side. And actually, we don't even get too many, except for occasionally when we have to find like when Immortum Joe is sending people out. We don't get too much of anyone else other than the truck. Like it mostly focuses on that one road, and that's where I'm saying, like, the way that he chose to tell the story, I think it didn't leave anything open for exposition, and I was okay with that because I think that it does leave interpretation open.
No, but what those conversations that you're talking about, though, Keenan, are so easily tweaked, and I would argue that they're missed opportunities because instead of having, to me, what feels forced is the conversation about redemption. Right? Like, I just met you. Like, what drives you most? Well, like, I don't even know what he asks her. Redemption. Like, no. Like, it would be those, like, chit chat sort of, like, yes, the conversation of, like, how long have I been there? Like, what do I do for this weird guy?
Can I just say with this? I do think one of the problems is the way in which they constructed Tom Hardy's character in this makes dialogue almost impossible. Like,
Right.
and that's a bit like, to me, that is an issue, right? It's almost, he's borderline mute
Yes.
in this film. And that's, I think there's a difficulty with that. One thing I will say about this film is it had something that I felt was more an Air Force One. That when we were talking about Air Force One, there was a feeling of more relentlessness to this movie that I wish, like, this was what I don't think I was able to maybe completely get across my point. And Jimmy and I were going back and forth of it. This is what I wanted, though. I wanted Air Force One to be like that confined thing with the truck, where I think actually I'll say I think the character development, which we knocked in Air Force One, was better. If they could have given us that experience in the truck on Air Force One, that's what I would have been looking, and that's what I would have been looking for from that film.
That's what I was talking about at the beginning of Air Force One, with that, just that small conversation, right? Like, you only need a little bit to get into like character motivation. And so you get more of that with the War Boys.
Yep. I was just going to say.
The War Boys, very easily
defined.
Yes. And it applies to all of them, right? Like, boom, I get this. I get who this person is in this
Dying of
operation.
radiation,
There
they
are
have,
hundreds of them. I'm in. Like, I understand that cog in the wheel.
And I don't know about you guys, but by the end of this movie, the person I feel most attached to
Is the War Boy.
is the War Boy.
He's the one you mourn.
Nicholas Holt's a great actor.
No, but it's not
I mean,
because of the acting. It's because of the writing.
It's because he's
But
developed.
Yeah.
I'm getting all sweaty.
No, but my
all
question
hot and
is this,
bothered
Jim.
over this.
My question, Jim, is I do think it's some of the acting, because I don't think it's just the writing, because I think
he's animated.
the same writer. Do you know what I mean? I think his
Tom Hardy
performance
is like
with what the
a wall.
writing was there. The other thing I will say about this movie, I have watched an embarrassingly large number of films this year, to the point where Aileen tells me I'm not allowed to publicly say what the number is approaching.
Does she know that
It's over. It's over 250.
It is close to that, actually. This is a really unique thing to watch. If you watch that many, so I think I'm drawn to it from that perspective now of watching this obscene number of movies. It is very rare, for better or worse, you get something that really stands out from a lot of other movies. And I think partially that's drawing to me as well. There's just something about it that is unique. And again, there's certainly flaws with it, but not a lot of people are making this, and maybe that's fine for the reasons we're talking about. But I have an appreciation for it because it is something so wildly different in some ways than what other people would focus on. And that's not for everybody, obviously.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
I just think the same argument that we've made about so many other movies is present here as well.
Yeah.
It's like, if you have a movie that's that good, and having somebody who's a little bit of a better writer in those moments of dialogue, like, it would have skyrocketed this film, to a nearly perfect film. Like, those moments become just like black marks on the film.
Oh yeah, because everything else is super tight.
Mad Max.
Yeah, the dialogue in this film, I think we could all probably agree, the dialogue in this film has to be the worst part.
But that's it.
along
Like,
with
so
Tom
you
Hardy.
get somebody who can write, like, clearly whoever the writer was, like, dialogue was not their thing, right?
No, it wasn't
Like,
what they cared about.
Right.
Here's
so
a
get
question
somebody who
for
can
you.
write killer dialogue.
No, or like, to me, and maybe this is when it was black and white, like, the dialogue is so minimal in this film. It would almost have been better as like a silent film.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, when I watched it in black and white, the connotation your mind makes with black and white films, if you watch a lot of them, is the dialogue, there were silent films. There are people who even watch this film that way.
But I think that's what makes the words more important.
No, maybe,
you don't
but I'm
have
just
that
saying,
many?
I'm like, that's an interesting thing to me. Like, there are people who will watch this film with the soundtrack on the black and white version with no dialogue, or they'll watch it. And that's just, again, I'm not saying like it's different. I'm merely saying, like, this is a film I put in a slightly different category in some ways. And
I
that
will
doesn't
say,
makes it great.
The attention to detail in like the world was pretty awesome. Two things I wanted to talk about technically actually three things that either bother me or I found interesting. The only thing I find unforgivable in this movie that they didn't need to do was the crash that should have killed both him and the war boy. That is so freaking stupid that they survived that crash.
Where they're buried. He's like buried. We don't know how long.
There's no
right?
one else in this movie that survives anything.
Right.
So like, I don't understand why would you do that? It undermines everything. It undermines the stakes of this movie. And you didn't need to do that. You just need to give them a flat and have them like peel off or something like,
or a less crazy crash,
right?
Because it is a film full of insane visuals. So having something mild could easily
just get them out of and they didn't need to do that. And it to me it hurts the credibility of this movie.
Point two,
people are probably going to think I'm going to bring up the guitar player. I'm not, because I love the idea of that being like
crazy.
Being
it's like the drummer, right?
It's like the drummer in the Civil War.
Civil War,
right? It's an evolution of that.
Do have the drummers behind him?
I know,
right?
But
I love the idea that I love what George Miller does he does it in a few spots, but the idea of like these old traditions using what's available to them now, right? And that's stuff that would be available to them. Fine with that. Tom Hardy's voice. What the fuck is going on with the sound design there? Something.
By the way, I just want to say it won the Oscar.
It
won the Oscar for sound
was
editing.
I the only one hearing that on this rewatch?
It was weird.
No, it sounded like the same voice from Bane. It was his Bane voice.
It was ADR or something that he was not. It sounded like every time Charlize talked that she was in the truck. Every time he talked, it sounded like he was in a studio talking, and it was really jarring.
Was he also Sling Blade? Sling Blade was the grunter.
Well, I think it was probably. I would wonder if it was the choice. Like if he was going.
It wasn't even the grunting though. It was like it's the like the room sounds that you hear.
Well, they probably couldn't pick up the fucking dialogue.
Right,
like,
that's true.
And they were probably like, we got to have this guy record this.
That happens to other people, and they don't win Oscars for it. Right? They do better.
I think the sound design is other elements of it. I think they probably and then maybe they got it just because we understood anything he said. Maybe that's why they gave him the
final thing. I'll end on a good note. The thing that I love is the way that he plays with the frame rate in this movie to make things feel frenetic and crazy. So like, I don't think if people aren't aware of what like the frame rate is, typically films are shot in 24 frames per second. In like some more modern movies like The Hobbit and other ones that look unnatural, they shoot in 48. In this one, I feel like he drops from 24 to like, I don't want to say 15. I don't know if it's like half, but there are certain moments in this film where he drops the frame rate. So things seem to be skipping almost, especially in the Tom Hardy escaping scene, is where I noticed it the most. And it makes things so frenetic. And that to me is like the cocaine thing. Like that to me is like, oh my god! Like that's
and it won the Oscar for editing.
Yeah, and that was really cool. And that was probably I don't know if it was digitally done or if they shot this on film, but it was pretty cool.
No, I think they had to shoot this. I'll double check.
It definitely was film, and on top of it, it's something that he has played around with for a while. Like you watch the original Mad Max, you watch that trilogy. He doesn't do it in a well way at all, because we're talking about the 80s, but he is like constantly in car chases, things like that, playing around with the frame rate. So this is obviously years of practice. He's finally figured out how to do it. You know, like you can see the start of it in that, but it's funny because the editing, like if you read a little bit of the trivia, the editing was done by his wife. And like when she asked, like, you know, why do you want me to edit it? Like, I'm going to edit it as a woman. It will be different than anything that's been edited before. And he's like, that's why.
Well, I mean, which I disagree with.
I hate these half-hearted like feminist things. Like
because
what's his do the thing or don't do the thing. God damn
what's his name? Scorsese's editor was a woman forever.
Yeah,
and so was Quentin Tarantino's.
It doesn't mean you're a good dude.
Let's talk about our favorite visuals.
Oh yeah.
So yes, he should have died in the crash, but the moment when he emerges from the sand and you think that it's a mountain. I don't know. The perspective on it, right? Because you have no idea. Like you think you're just looking at the world, right? So it's like hill of sand. And then it's like, oh, human form. That was cool. I liked that.
I thought that he shot, and John Seal, who was the DP for this, shot Charlize Theron perfectly. Like I loved the way she was shot. In fact, again, I would advocate for this, not even having Mad Max in it. The whole code, like opening part, pre-Mad Max, like with Tom Hardy, like I want to see this film, like just a true film where it's just relentless, nothing, like don't even have Tom Hardy, just have it be we start out with Charlize Theron, like when we were introduced to her, and then just go from there. And that to me would have made this, and maybe that's sacrilege.
No, you're right.
To me would have just.
What does he bring to the film? Like in the story,
anything he does in this film could have been done by like
the War Boy,
her best friend.
Well, right.
I mean, she had like a partner.
To me, as soon as the War Boy becomes one of their people,
I will say like, the fight between the two of them with the chain in the car door is pretty awesome.
Cool. Yeah. No, but I guess my point is like I would love. And maybe it's a financing and his love for this and people who are Mad Max aficionados. But I'm just talking about this film. Like, give me something, which is what I think this wanted to be. It's just this relentless. I'm absorbed in this world. And then if you're going to tell me there's no dialogue, and I do agree with Katie and Jim. I certainly probably like this movie more than they do. But I don't need any philosophical. I don't even maybe need. I could have gone a whole movie, and I maybe didn't even need to know either. Don't tell me the motivation at all or really go into the motivation. But if you give me this experience,
there are these beautiful moments, right? So let me just give you the contrast. The moment between the older woman, what are the motorbike people called? Who are they? Do they have names?
Vulvani or whatever?
The vulva women. Sure. Everything's all the women, right? All the symbolism. Okay. So vulva ladies. One of them opens her bag, her pocketbook, funny, and inside there are seeds. I mean, seriously, let's just keep going with the symbols. So it's kind of all twisted, but also there's a beautiful moment there with our very, spiritual wifey who gets like plants, right? And there's no real conversation. It's just action, but there's a story there, right? And so you understand this woman's history, and they do have a conversation about like death killing, right? That's been no unnecessary killing, and so we get that motivation of the wifeys,
breeders,
sure, and then the 7 wives, no. And then you get, the old woman basically saying like, it's survival and you
didn't have to do it back then.
Right. Like, and so that feels natural, organic, not forced. Just like this, two people meeting for the first time, getting to the point.
Yeah. They could have called this, like, if they went Fury Road, a Mad Max story or something like that. Because the only purpose he serves in this film is to connect us to a world that we might already have familiarity with from the other movies.
Agreed.
But they still exposition the beginning and say like what the world is sort of all about. So like they didn't even get. I feel
like they needed. This is the marketing tool, right? Because for better or worse, the nostalgia of it. And listen, Keenan's right. This was written so long ago. Mel Gibson was supposed to be in it. And then they went through a whole cycle. I can't even remember who some of the other people were. This had gone through like a decade of cycling in different actors that they were going to plug into this. George Miller went and was actually about to film a Justice League movie.
And then he filmed Happy Feet.
Which I wish to God he had filmed and we wouldn't have had. And then he did Happy Feet. And he also did 2 Babe movies, by the way.
We have a dedicated commenter who's been giving us so much material.
So,
and I'm sorry, Jeff, but I would like to comment on this.
Yeah, good. Me too.
So he's pointing out that Mad Max is really supposed to be our perspective, our point of view, and yes, like that he drops into the world, and so everybody else is of the world, and I mean he's of the world, but not of this place,
this
right?
community,
right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of those questions that he asks absolutely are our questions, like what's in the tanker, and like have you made this drive before? Even though that conversation.
What's this sense. Is what he says though. What's this?
What's this? What's this?
What's this? Yes. So agreed. Just wish he was better.
Yeah, I sort of see it as like he's so like yes, he's our point of view, but we don't need Mad Max to be our point of view. That could have been anybody. There's nothing about the character of Mad Max that makes him specifically perfect for our point of view.
Well, and Jeff is saying that's who he is in all of the films. So again, maybe it's just a Tom Hardy issue of like that he's supposed to
rather
walk.
Have Mel Gibson.
No,
I actually.
But there are many other options. Let's recast.
But let me
Can
say
we recast?
something.
Oh yeah, let's do a recast.
But I don't even know if you need a recast. I think it's interesting if there's this little dialogue. I think an older Mad Max in this, if he could have gotten Mel Gibson, would have made more sense.
It would be actually interesting. Maybe then the conversation about redemption would have felt a little meaningful.
That's what I mean. Do you agree with that? Like if you had, like he was a more beaten up, older, guy in his 50s. For what needed to be done in this movie, I think he could have done that.
That's interesting. I mean, they avoided using him
because they wanted a future. They want someone younger so that there's.
Like when you think like
start again.
You pick one of the Helmsworth brothers or something like.
Yes. I'm sure they were in the run. I'm sure there were a lot of people.
Yeah, like there's so many people that I I don't want to say that Tom Hardy was bad, but because I'll put this on.
Bad.
He was bad, but I will say, like,
I don't know what he was given though, which is interesting. Like, how much was he given?
If what we saw was because of the problem between him and George Miller, then I blame George Miller. It's his fucking movie. He can put whoever he wants in this.
Well, and they said
so do your fucking homework.
He wasn't working with Charlize, right? Like that. There was
there was a whole issue. She had issues with both of them had admitted. Like Charlize and Tom Hardy have admitted that they were both at fault, like during the end, and because she had issues with George Miller as well, because so much of what this movie was, there was like no dialogue, there was no shooting script, and he's like, believe me, this is going to be here and it's going to be amazing. But I have to be honest, if you go look at the other Mad Max movies, I don't.
Yeah, what did you think you were getting into?
But no, but I'm saying. This movie is significantly, I think, more impressive technically in things that they did than those.
But there's less story.
So I could see some apprehension if you're sitting there and being like, my dialogue is grunting. And I'm just supposed to expect this is going to happen. And Charlize Theron's shaving her head and has a CGI arm and is like, and he's like, no, don't worry. This is going to look amazing. We have an albino guy playing a guitar. Mm-hmm. We have guys looking like they're from the Cirque du Soleil set. This is all going to look amazing. And both of them, when they saw it, were like, oh my God, we were wrong, George. We're sorry. Like, and they've made amends. But there is a level, like when you're watching this would be a difficult thing to buy into, I think, because there's not green screen. Like maybe if you're doing green screen, you're like, okay, I get it. You're doing an Avengers movie. I understand. I can act to the screen, but they're not doing that. And he's saying, no, this is going to look amazing. It's great. And Tom Hardy's like, this is my 50-second grunt today. Am I grunting properly? Like, so I agree with Jim. I do think that some of this, that performance, and I think performance a lot of time is really what the director's responsibility is. You're supposed to get that performance out of that person.
One more nitpick from Katie, and then we got to move on. We got to move on. The war boys who are like dehydrated, malnourished.
Do we know why they're white?
Radioactive, I guess. They like never die. right? Like they get like blown up, stabbed through the face, shot. Like they just keep coming back to life. Like they're freaking zombies.
Valhalla, baby.
Yeah, sure. Valhalla.
With
But
that
then
stuff
the
you can
freaking
buy, by the way, in real
the
life.
biker ladies who have ostensibly, like we're supposed to believe, they are the ones who have been in pure survival mode for the past 30 years, like out there just surviving. They just like fall
I will say
like
that-
chopped trees.
Well,
But
no,
they
I
did
think a
have
lot of the
cool
war
death
boys
scenes.
do die. We just,
Oh, yeah,
there's
absolutely.
just
We don't
so
care.
much, so
They're
many
like
more of them.
stormtroopers,
so many more-
right? In
yeah,
Star
yeah.
Wars.
And because of the fact that they are all painted white, you just assume that they're all the same person.
I guess
But
so.
they're
But
not.
you see several of them, sort of like the guy that gets stabbed in the face, who's like, ah,
He
come back.
dies literally a second later when he
but
jumps
still
on the
he comes
car.
back up. But then they all resurrect, and then the women, it's like,
But even
here's
that-
the
The
guy.
spray is actually like meth. Like that's what it is.
Yeah,
It's
that's-
like it's speed.
Well, that whatever that
like,
stuff
instantly-
really is sold out on Amazon immediately when the film came out. It's
Oh, dear
something they use
Lord.
to put on cakes. It's like a cake spray.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
edible
Color,
paint.
edible paint, and that's
That's
what they were
funny.
spraying.
That makes sense.
By
So
the way, hold on really
go
quickly.
ahead. Yes.
To answer Katie's question, because I never got to, you asked favorite visuals. Mine is the poles.
The crow. The crow. Oh, the
The
pole.
pole scenes.
I like
with
the
the
crow
crane
people.
shot pulling out and seeing the poles
Cirque du
going
Soleil,
in and
man.
out. That was that to me is my favorite visual of the
Yeah.
whole movie.
The crow people.
Sorry, I had
They're cool.
was waiting for my turn.
I just
to,
thought it was
to chime in
borrowed.
there.
That's like a Lion King Broadway production trick. It is the crow people. Like that's But it was cool. It was very cool.
All right, I am a big watch on this again for its
Yeah.
flaws. I think
Yes.
I would definitely. If
There
you've
are
never
a lot
seen
of
this,
worse movies. We
Oh
talked
yeah.
about.
No, watch it. Don't watch it right before bed. You won't sleep. You know,
It's heart
like
pumping.
a middle of the night sort of, or a
Yes.
middle of the day sort of film.
All right, time
I
for
actually did watch it last
game.
night.
Did you go right to bed afterwards? But it wasn't the first time you had watched
Keenan,
it.
Keenan, you're probably up to what, like 3 a.m. most
No,
nights?
not anymore.
All right,
Not
well that's
anymore.
plus.
He's a
All right,
married
all right.
man. He's in his 20s now.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Game of the week time. All right, this time we are playing higher or lower. We're ranking Mad Max Fury Road against some of our other films that we've done. Let's start out with the film that Keenan's co-host Tim did with us, a Star Wars film, Rogue One. Would you rather watch Mad Max Fury Road or Rogue One? Let's
Rogue
start
One.
with
Would I
Keenan.
rather watch it? That's different question.
Well, all right, higher or lower. Which do you think would you rank as a better film?
Me, I'm going Rogue One.
Same.
Yeah.
Rogue One's to me. So like when I think about film, I think about visual storytelling, and I think Rogue One is a better story. There and yeah.
It's I Rogue One. Yeah.
I think it's
For me, it's easier on which one would you rather watch. Like that's actually how I was thinking.
all right. Well, which one would you rather watch?
Rogue One. If I had a choice between the two of them, Rogue One.
I think I'd pick Rogue One as well. I think I'd rather watch Rogue One, and I think there's a fair argument that Rogue One, based on the universe and stuff that's involved, we made this argument with Tim that Rogue One might be one of the best Star Wars movies ever made.
Yeah.
So, all right. How about a film that came out around, a little bit earlier than it? Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol. Of course, one of the great Doom Thug pop-addled series that they do for your episode was a series. Keenan was a full review of all Mission Impossible films. Where would you put Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol in comparison to Fury Road?
Ghost Protocol is probably. I think we finally said it was like the best one of the Mission Impossibles, or at least up there. It's between that and Fallout.
Is that the Burge one?
Yes.
That's the one we discussed.
Yeah. I don't know. That's tough for me.
I'll go.
It really is tough.
All right, Jim, what do you think?
I would rather watch Ghost Protocol.
Yep.
I think that's my favorite Mission Impossible besides the first one.
Okay, I haven't seen all of the other ones, but I thought that movie was excellent.
Yeah, Katie loved Ghost
I did.
Protocol.
I have to go get the dog. Here's my hot take. I would put all of these movies over Mad Max.
Okay. How about
Even
John
Bucker
Wick?
Bunce.
What
So-
about John Wick?
So for me, the thing is, the problem is that because I did all the Mission Impossibles, like I'm remembering Ghost Protocol, but it is like mixing in with Rogue Nation. But I think it might be.
Ooh, you know what's
Nation
funny?
over
Yeah, I do want to have this conversation eventually, but I have a problem with the Mission Impossibles that everyone loves. I don't know why. There's just something about the last two that don't connect with me the way Ghost Protocol does.
Ghost Protocol. A lot of people have Ghost Protocol as their favorite Mission Impossible, so you're not completely outside. All right, how about Armageddon?
Oh, please.
This over
Fury
Armageddon.
Road every day.
Yeah, Fury Road.
Okay. How about Air Force One?
Fury Road.
Fury Road.
Yeah, Air Force One's trash. Buckaroo Banzai, Keenan. Jim and I aren't going to answer this. This is a question now. Which would you rather watch? Let's not talk about quality of the film. I want to.
You made us watch Buckaroo Banzai, Keenan.
And listen,
No. You watched it on your own. You picked
listen,
it. I didn't.
I am willing to say this because I felt Tim said the other day that all we did was beat you up about Buckaroo Banzai when you were on, and we do remember that I have watched Buckaroo Banzai multiple times, and I don't love it as much as you, but I understand the value of Buckaroo Banzai.
There's no fucking value.
Totally different.
But here's my
for me is like I would do a double feature of Buckaroo Banzai with Road Warrior.
All right,
that's what I would be doing.
If we just rolled it out here and said it's a Friday night, you have to watch one of the two. Which are you picking? Let's say this: you haven't watched either in a year. You haven't watched either in a year. Which are you going to put in?
Probably Fury Road.
Okay. I'm surprised. I thought you were going to go with Buckaroo there.
Buckaroo Banzai is fun, but like I said, this is not the Mad Max I would put in comparison with Buckaroo Banzai. It would be Road Warrior or Thunderdome.
Which Mad Max would you watch if you had your choice? You had to watch one Mad Max movie. Which one are you watching?
Road Warrior.
Road Warrior. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's time for 5 questions. Here we go.
Wait, no.
You want answers? You want answers?
Oh, that was game over.
I want the truth. What makes a man, Mr. Lebowski?
I would watch Thunderdome because it makes me laugh the most.
Thunderdome's pretty crazy.
Thunderdome's awesome.
All right, here we go. 5 question time with Keenan. First question is our thumbs up or thumbs down. In essence, this film is really a quaint, small, little family road trip film. Keenan, how do you feel about family road trips?
Thumbs up. I used to go on them all growing up. My parents took me around we tried to hit all the 50 states. I think that I'm 15 short.
Were you going to try to drive your car to Hawaii?
No, my parents got us in. They had this, by the way, if you can ever Google this, it's a 1978 Dodge Maxi van, and it was painted like green, and it had shag interior. Actually, you guys,
I'm very familiar.
We're familiar with the Laird van.
Very familiar with.
We've
that
all
vehicle,
seen the Laird van.
Yes, and that we used to drive around cross country.
All right, I love it. All right,
I like
question
picturing
2.
Mrs. Laird as Furiosa.
That would be. Could she dress up like that for your
And your
wedding?
dad just going, "What's this?" Whoa.
Your dad could be man back. That'd be awesome. All right, Keenan, would you rather watch a Tom Hardy film or a Charlize Theron film? Bonus: name the film you'd watch based upon the person you pick.
Charlize Theron, because she's got so much range.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest,
Yep.
like there's
Absolutely.
like Tom Hardy, you pretty much a Tom Hardy movie. Like there's a couple like he does really well. It's like he's got a wheelhouse where Charlize Theron, it could be anything. She's great in comedy.
Yeah,
I mean, she just did that Seth Rogen movie.
that movie
was
is
actually
hilarious. Yeah,
That is a very
Long
good
Shot is a
Actually,
good
like,
movie.
long shot.
The movie wasn't great, but she was even good in A Million Ways to Die in the West. She's obviously great in action and
Monster.
and
Monster.
and Monster.
Do you know what
dramatic.
movie?
Like,
Do you know what's a great movie with her in it? Atomic Blonde.
I haven't seen
I
that
thought you were
one.
about to say Legend of Bagger Vance. Yeah.
No.
Legend of Bagger Vance I own and I enjoy. She was also great in her small cameo role in Tom Hanks' directorial debut, That Thing You Do, which redeemed my faith
Wasn't that? Yes.
in
Yes.
late 90s films. Okay, fill in the blank question, Keenan. The most exciting thing about finally becoming an adult has been, and we've chronicled this, congratulations to you. You're back to school. You've purchased a home. You've gotten married. Everybody else is regressing in 2020. We're going back to a more I don't even know how to describe it time period. You are growing them. Never seen anything like it. What has been
We're all
the most
atrophying is the way to describe
thank
it.
you. Okay, that's
we
why
are all in a state of atrophy.
That is why you're the English teacher. Thank you. I appreciate that.
My wife's been the best part because honestly, everything else, being an adult sucks. Getting the house, amazing. Paying rent sucks. Moving sucks. Going back to school, that's kind of nice that I'm getting my associate's degree, but still at the same point, doing all the work after 20 years of not going, like it's been, well, it's not quite 20 years, but it's been about 20 years almost, like around there.
Well, moving does suck when you stretch it out over a 6-month period or whatever it is.
Oh, no. We stretched it out over a month and a half, and we got our floors getting done next week. So don't join Tim's side.
I did say when we were doing this, I thought you filming this episode from the streets of Delco would have been more fitting.
Oh my God. I went to the Giant in Haverford today, and that was like, I was like, I'm in the right mindset for Surrey Road right now.
There you go.
You got to go to the Brew Mall, dude.
Ooh. Okay, here we go. Favorite question. So Lenny Kravitz and Lisa Bonet's daughter is in this film, which
also,
led me.
They don't let her have the beautiful hair that everybody else has.
Yeah.
All the other birthers have gorgeous locks, and Zoe Kravitz, who's an incredibly beautiful woman, cut her own hair.
Yeah, she might have. Maybe she did. By the way, also in this film, Elvis Presley's granddaughter.
Yep.
The redhead.
Yes, is the redhead.
I was looking at her thinking, I know this person.
And Megan Fox's replacement in the Transformers franchise.
Oh, yes, that's true. So, Keenan, what is your favorite Lenny Kravitz song?
I know it's such a cop-out, but Fly Away. I do love that song. I mean, I know it's like his big song, and like people who don't really know Lenny Kravitz, like,
hey, that doesn't matter. That's fine.
I think that's my favorite.
That was a good one, too.
Again.
I liked his version of American Woman on the Austin Powers Spy Who Shagged Me soundtrack as well. All right, finally.
Sexy, that man.
Yeah. Deep thoughts question, Keenan. If you had lived in the post-apocalyptic world of Mad Max, what type of vehicle would you want to have?
I mean, it's such a cop-out, but I'm going to do it. It's the Batmobile, specifically the Batmobile from the animated series.
Oh, you fucking would.
No. Honestly,
it's not a cinematic Batmobile,
no.
so it's not
It would have to
allowed.
be the Tumbler because it's a freaking tank. Like, it's a tank. Like, why have like this crazy? You can drive around in a tank. It's got guns on it. It's fine.
I thought the vehicles were so cool.
Yeah.
I loved the like combo,
the double car.
Yeah. Well, like,
I mean, I would love to say that I would want to be in like the monster mobile, like the car from the Munsters, like, I mean, like something like that, like a really cool, like hot rod type deal, Ghostbuster. I would love to say that, but I mean, if it's me personally living in that, I'm going to die in the first like minute or two. I need to be in a car that's like
you need the Batmobile from the Nolan movies. You need the
that's what I said. The Tumbler. Yeah, that's what I need. That's the only way I'm going to live.
Yeah.
If you want to hear a whole podcast episode on amazing cars and films, did you see how I did that, Keenan? I know. Do you like that? You like how that was not by accident.
Bring it home and name another podcast that did an episode on cars.
That was not. Check out Pop Out. And where can we find Pop Out? Has an amazing episode. This will probably get you on some kind of FBI search list, favorite adult cartoons. Yeah. So don't go googling that one.
No, that's why we changed the title from top 5 adult cartoons to top 5 cartoons for adults.
Totally different.
Very smart.
Still probably disturbing.
It still can be taken differently, but
yes. Where can we find Pop Addled though? Where should we look?
We're on all the streaming sites. We're on Spotify, TuneIn, all of that. You just search Pop Addled, and we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff.
Love it. Keenan, thank you.
We have
We
to
love
also say
having you
thank you
on.
to Jeff Doherty, who stuck with us
Absolutely.
for
I
the
think he's
entire
pretty
episode.
drunk, he said.
Yeah.
He said Venture Brothers.
Which was one of the
that is one of mine.
Keenan's
Yes,
on
absolutely.
is we don't want to spoil it, but that is
Go
absolutely
Team
true.
Venture.
Join us next week when we're going to be doing a film that's very much about dialogue, very much about character development, very much about not having cars and people on bungee cords and things like that. As we'll be watching the Denzel Washington film Fences. Quite a jump. We're quite a jump.
I'm going to go watch Roadhouse and then watch me some Denzel.
Yeah, love it. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.